live. Welcome to the 5th episode of 0 Degrees, a podcast about marketing and everything else. How's everybody doing?
Pretty good, man.
Good. Yeah.
Manny, welcome home.
Thank you, sir.
Manny was out in Florida visiting some family and doing some stuff. How was that, Manny?
It was good. Definitely missed California.
Did you miss California because you like working with the crew and the homies, or did you miss like California itself?
I mean, the homies for sure. Yeah.
Did you wild out? How was Miami?
I definitely wilded out. Wasn't to no crazy extent where I was hangover effect type thing, but
Right.
I just did some things.
Let loose.
Yeah.
Nice.
You got to let loose a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I feel like even I talk to the smartest guys who run $50-60 million a year companies, and during the week and during most of the quarter, these guys are not even having a glass of wine at night because they don't want to cloud their brain.
Mm-hmm.
And then they go take a break and just cut loose and go wild and do coke and just do wild stuff.
Yeah,
and then
sure.
I'm not recommending that to anyone. I'm just saying I know a lot of people who you would never think that that's what they would do, but they're like, yeah, bro, it's just part of the, you got to go wild and then come back. And
Yeah, I've been to a lot of shows, and you meet a lot of people from obviously all kinds of walks of life, and you bump into a lot of high-end business people at these shows just wilding out and just kind of
Right.
loose. It's pretty cool.
I mean, the founders of Google went and partied at Burning Man and shit.
Yeah.
Like, crazy.
That's probably the best place to go if you're of any status, because you're just so anonymous.
Yeah, everyone,
yeah.
no one matters out there.
No.
They're all the same. It's pretty much just what you built out there that defines how cool you are.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy because I talk to, a lot of those guys, and it's funny to hear the advice being like, hey, pick the time to go out and cut loose. And, that's right after they just gave me super good advice on logistics, when to switch from drop shipping to 3PL, stuff that takes incredible brain power and dedication to learn. And it's funny to see the whole process as being part and parcel of being great. Because I think, especially when you first start out, you think that you just have to work your face off nonstop. And
You do.
But if you don't take breaks, you burn out. Just flat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the problem is when you are starting out, you just usually can't afford to take a break, right?
That's true.
Financially, if you break, you're gonna be evicted to lose your home or whatever.
For sure. But I think that it's maybe even if you can't take a full break, I'm not saying everyone should go take a weekend in Tulum, but I'm saying definitely go if you can find at least one day a week to just take a break and recharge. I think that's really good for who you are as a person.
Yeah, for sure. That's why I think everybody should do that. We touched on that on the last episode a lot, but yeah, it's super important. But yeah, welcome home, dude.
Oh, thanks.
It's weird how your work homies become a second family. It was day 3 when Manny was gone, and I was working at my desk and I saw something. I was like, oh, I gotta go tell Manny. And I walked to his office and I stopped and was like, damn it.
He's not here.
And it's it's
he's
funny.
wilding out in South Beach.
Yeah, and I'm happy for him. I'm glad he's out doing that. But it's funny how you miss your work homies when they're not there. You know what I mean?
For sure.
And I think that's why it's super important that people are more intentional about their work, right? I think people look at it as something that you just have to do. And in a lot of ways it is that. But I think that's a trap that a lot of people fall into, where they just accept what is there. And not just 9-to-5 people, right? Entrepreneurs who take on a bad client. How does that happen?
Mm-hmm.
It's because you need the money. You want the money. You want to grow. You need the work. And I don't think a lot of entrepreneurs think, oh, is this client a good fit for me and what I'm doing? They just see the dollar sign.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a huge part of it. I think we've all kind of learned that lesson in our own experiences. And if you're not careful, I mean, that'll still happen now. No matter how experienced you are, you will come across a brand or a product or what have you, an offer that seems sexy, but the minute you get in there, it's a mess.
We just dealt with that.
Yeah.
You end up wasting a lot of time, and which is the most valuable resource you have, really the only resource that you have. And So let's get into that. How I know that one of the big things is doing research. And not just looking at their website. I mean, actually getting the product, testing it, seeing how it works.
Yeah, there's definitely a process that has to happen, I think, just a lot of young folks who are looking for maybe their first client, whether you're just a young digital marketer, what have you, like you said, you will jump on those like money opportunities quick. But yeah, it takes a little bit more upfront work to make sure that you're that both parties are happy in the long term. And so it begins with, first off, getting on a call and just having a conversation, breaking that ice, getting to know each other as business people, and then just doing more product research. Like you said, I think there's a lot you can learn from, a few Google searches, visiting the Facebook ad library that already exists. There's a ton of tools that already exist out there that you can use to really determine sort of what's a perfect client. But the thing is, that's different for everybody, right? That's not a blanket statement. It depends on where you are in that journey. If you are young, maybe that client we're talking about would be a good fit because there's a lot of learns that could have happened. I mean, we learned a lot from that client.
For sure.
From an operational standpoint, from a management standpoint, and everyone in this room has had clients and has worked with clients for many years. And so I guess the point is that you can still fall into those client relationships that are not really good for your business and your growth, but there's a lot to learn there, and you can mitigate it through some upfront work.
Yeah, I think we had a client, really famous guy, really 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 big, and when we first got him, we thought that it was awesome, right? It was going to be awesome. And there were red flags, but we kind of just pushed right past it. Before I knew it, this dude was calling me like 20 times by like 9 a.m. And it's like, I understand that, you're my client, I'm working for you. But at the same time, if the first thing you do when you wake up is look at your phone and have someone screaming at you over something that's not that big a deal, that's going to screw up everything. Your whole day is going to be down the drain.
That client essentially owns your day at that point.
And how many days do they have to own, how many consecutive days do they own before they end up owning you straight up?
Yeah. And then no matter how much they're paying you, it's just not worth it.
It's not worth it.
Yeah.
It's not worth it.
It might seem worth it in the beginning, but it's definitely not worth it in the long term. I don't think it's more than just not worth it. I think it's unhealthy.
Yeah, for sure. And the downside is very real. And I don't think a lot of people look at opportunity cost. I fall victim to that, right? I think something that I fall victim to is shiny object syndrome.
Yeah.
I see something, it's a great idea, I want to do it, and I don't realize at the time how that will impact everything I'm doing, but also things I could do in the future.
Right. Yeah, it's a kind of a piece to a bigger puzzle, and sometimes it's not the right one at the right time. That shiny object syndrome is actually a really interesting one. I think that comes from sort of our own backgrounds and how we got to where we are today in our digital marketing careers, because when you're starting out and you haven't done much in this world, you sort of have this like scarcity mindset where perhaps this opportunity or these opportunities will run out and never, present themselves again. Because in the beginning, you aren't presented with these opportunities. You have to create those opportunities. But when you get to a certain point in your career and you have proven time and time again that you can do these sort of things, the word kind of naturally gets out there, and then those opportunities start coming to you. And I think when that starts to happen, that's when you have to figure out, and then it's kind of like defining a new client, right? You have to have sort of parameters and a framework in how to approach those things and not get caught up in that shiny object syndrome as you speak of.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it's like defining who a good client is, and I think that's something I wish I would have done more early. I started doing some of this today, a couple thought exercises, but the customer avatar, defining who your ideal customer is. And I think you do that for any product you make. And it's weird how the lack of processes or the lack of standardizing things can lead you to make bad decisions because you're always flying on the seat of your pants, right? It's always off the cuff. And that leads to impulsive decisions.
Yeah, Absolutely. If you don't have some sort of framework to contextualize any given opportunity or client, it's hard to really figure out whether or not this is a good one or a bad one. It can be tough, and it's more than just clients, right? It's beyond that. It's business opportunities.
It's
It's
your
everything,
friends,
really. It's
right?
friends, exactly,
How many people like spend time devoting to toxic people in their lives?
exactly.
And it's crazy, and it's like it's really the same thing. And I think, you know, we've talked about this book before, but essentialism, you know, essentialism is living, you know, to summarize in a sentence, it's living by design, not by default.
Mm-hmm.
And I think so many people are living by default in the sense that they're just doing whatever's in front of them. They haven't intentionally set out to go do the thing that they know is most valuable.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard to do that. Why do you guys think it's hard to do the right thing, sort of say? Like, why is it so hard to design a life that is truly fulfilling?
Well, I think a big part of it is you have to know who you are.
Yeah, that for sure. I think you have to read a lot, you know, bios, I guess, and try to see like what other people have gone through, and kind of like maybe you've gone through something that someone's kind of gone through, and you know, something that they've done right may have come out and done, you know, good things for them, and then you might want to try that, and then
Yeah, I think it's really important to understand kind of where you fall in whatever journey you're trying to emulate.
yeah,
So it's like what you're trying to say is like if you read bios on people that you aspire to be, and you read sort of where they are or the stories of, you know, where they were in certain times of their life, and kind of look and reflect and have that introspective moment where you identify where you fall into that journey and where you are in that journey.
yeah, because people usually like they sort of just react on a daily basis,
Facts.
and they don't really like, you know, really see what every reaction that they're doing is manifesting. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I think once you start reacting to something, you start to fall in that loop where you stay reactionary.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where 97% of my mistakes come from. Like, literally.
Yeah, and it's funny because being reactionary does have its benefits too, right? There is a lot of benefit to being someone who can work with what's in front of them right now.
So
because there's an element of like getting lost in things that may not exist, or
so I think there's a nuance here.
Mhm.
I think that you're talking about having quick reactions, right? That's valuable.
more like being able to make quick decisions to problems that might come across as a business owner.
Sure, but I wouldn't say that's reactionary, right? A reactionary person is they're reacting to whatever things are happening to them, whereas someone who is intent driven has a framework, has a vision, and when problems arise, they look at those problems, look at who they are, look at the vision, and they don't just immediately react, right?
Yeah.
And so I think there's a nuance there. I think it's great to be quick reacting. I don't think it's good to be reactionary. You know what I mean?
I see what you're saying. Yeah, for sure. It's hard to break that though,
It is hard
because you have to, like, it's like anything, you have to identify that that's a problem before you can correct it and build those things like frameworks and whatnot.
for sure.
And that's why like taking those breaks away from, you know, your environment for like 2 days or a day is good to sort of, you know, go over that.
I agree 100%. I
Totally.
think those things really do a good job of tampering that reactionary nature. And I think it's just like, it's the default setting for human beings because it's easy.
Yeah, and I think so. This will be interesting actually, because we talked a lot about that last week about coming back from LA and that sort of that feeling of being rested and ready to go and kind of tackle whatever work we have to do. How did you feel when you got back?
I mean, the whole time when I was gone, I was just like, all right, I got to do this, that, and the third. Like, just kind of organizing just my whole process and, like, the things that are priority. And then, like, when I got back, me and Jordan talked, and we sort of, like, you know, came up with a plan to, like, you know, drop some things because they were taking focus on what's important, you know. So
I think that conversation we had was really cool because like Manny got back and we hadn't talked in a while and I was like, yo, call me real quick. We ended up talking for like 3 hours. That's like one of the longest.
Crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. I never have conversations that long with anybody on the phone. But I think that we both had so many ideas from being away from what we were doing and we were seeing things clear. And the repercussions of that convo are still not fully felt. I'm still processing it, right?
Yeah,
Like,
it was a lot.
it was a
I
lot.
mean,
It's a
dude.
ton, you know? And so like I'm still like processing that. And like today I sat down and like I was in a slump in my office. I was just like, I don't feel like I'm really focused. So I slid all my stuff to the side, took that big piece of paper and just started drawing stuff out, like visualizing, okay, where do we go? How do, where do we go from here? And 5 drafts later, I just ended up writing 6 months out and then being like, okay, I need to think about this, right? And it just, on those piece of paper, it's just 6 months. And now I'm thinking about, and after you guys go home, I'll spend some time just by myself thinking, what do the next 6 months look like? All that came from a 3-hour conversation with Manny. That 3-hour conversation came from stepping back away from work and coming back to it. And it's crazy to see that full cycle because you think that the answers are always in working harder, but oftentimes they're not.
Yeah, definitely. And I think another thing we did this week as a company, and I would recommend if you have any team under you or if you're a part of any team to do, it's pretty simple. You may have already done it. It's called a SWOT exercise. It's just going over, as a team, what your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats are. And I think those types of exercises, they're incredibly powerful. Obviously, I'm a big believer in them, but I think they have to also they require a level of follow up that every team member should be responsible for to kind of help move whatever the issues are forward and find those solutions to those problems. And so I don't know. What did you guys think about it? I thought it was pretty good. What did you guys think?
What do you think, OU?
I think it was like a great visualization of just everything going on in the company. Really, gives you great words to define what we're doing and what we are. So just really helped identify everything.
Yeah, I thought it was cool how like when we started writing sort of all those things down, how interconnected all of them were.
Yeah, straight up.
I think that was really the biggest takeaway for me.
I thought another really cool thing too was seeing the links between strengths, weaknesses, opportunities.
Yeah.
Like a lot of for example, I think vision is definitely one of our strengths. Me and Manny are talking about what 5 years looks like regularly, right? So we definitely see the vision. We definitely see, same with OU. We definitely see the vision. But one of our weaknesses is articulating the vision from the big picture down to the day-to-day. And it's funny how you see how one strength just taken way too far and unchecked can lead to a weakness. And it's funny because that exercise made that link in my mind because I saw them right next to each other on the same piece of paper,
Yeah, they really build on each other,
Oh, you said some stuff to me in Slack today that was pretty cool. It was like some of the goal setting that you want to do when you asked me for like some of the P&L stuff. Tell me more about that. Like what's going through your head there, and what are you looking to accomplish like goal setting wise?
So I'm trying to align my goals or format my goals in a way that kind of goes with my day to day. And since I'm buying ads a lot and I'm managing a lot of different campaigns in one account. I definitely want to. There's like at each level of my. How do I want to explain this? Yeah, I explained it to him in a way like my head's all over the place right now, so it's kind of hard for me to articulate what the hell I'm trying to say.
It's literally just buying ads again.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm still in my head buying ads. So, but basically, I wanted to set my goals up in a way I'm very familiar with, and that is account structure. And basically finding offers that could represent my cold traffic, my warm traffic, and my hot traffic, and prioritizing my efforts on where, pretty much on cold, and then building a team out that can handle the warm and hot. That way we can fill those buckets with very quality traffic, or I can't say traffic. I guess focus on
quality audiences.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say quality audiences. It's just like. The offers that generate the most revenue for the business are like the cold traffic.
I'm going to quote you.
Yeah, do it, dude. I'm like,
this is what you sent me. You're like, I'm just looking for rev goals I need to hit /client paid to LLC. It'll vary for each one based on the contract, but if I create a formula, I'll be able to plug each one in. Kind of like the shit we use for ecom profitability. Peep the case study you sent the other day. They use a calculator to figure out what ROAS they needed for each level of traffic so they didn't kill things that were working at scale. We make those models for clients, and we can see which offers are equivalent, cold, warm, and hot traffic. That'll be my focus. That'll help me keep my focus on cold because everything else is fed through that.
Yeah, there you go. Much better explained earlier today than right now. So
It's funny how an idea always sounds better when you first think of it.
yeah,
But I thought it was cool because it's like you were taking like the goal conversation and reverse engineering it all the way down to like ad account structure.
To the client level.
yeah, for sure. Because there's gonna be like diminishing returns on some offers. Like they're not gonna be scalable past X. So we need to focus all of our big efforts on the offers that are scalable, like massively scalable. We're talking 30, 40K a day. Those are gonna return fat revenue. But there's still other offers that we could take on as an agency that would obviously feed the business and are still lucrative, but they just don't have that kind of scale. So it's just like building out our teams around, that kind of structure.
Yeah.
Thinking of things like that and setting goals for myself. So for me to build out the team, I need the goals and kind of like obviously breaking it down to revenue per, employee under me. So and thinking of it like that.
Yeah, those types of metrics are so key. Things like revenue per employee. Do you guys know which company has like one of the most legendary revenue per employees in the game?
Apple probably.
Probably one of my former employee.
It's actually Costco.
Damn.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's interesting because they have a lot of employees.
They do have a lot of employees.
But the Costco business model, I should know that. I watch a lot of NBC YouTube videos on Costco and why we're addicted to it and shit. And it's insane.
It's insane. Like,
Yeah.
And so what they do is like, the reason it's so good is because they figured out a model to sell people a ton of shit. Where else do you go and buy 20 packets of kitchen cleaner?
Totally.
Nowhere. But they found a way to make their AOV higher, baked in, because people believe they're saving money.
Yeah, 100%. And did you know that they break even on all their chickens that they sell? And they put them in the back of the store on purpose to get you to walk through the store because they can basically break down dollars per minute in store. So they make you walk to the back of the store and to the back to the front of the store.
That's engineering.
That's so
Yeah.
Someone
gangster.
thought that
That's
out.
so sick.
good.
Yeah, and they don't make any money on their chickens.
They actually lose money on hot dogs.
Yeah, I believe it.
Yeah, they've been $1.50 since like forever. They wouldn't change the price. I
Yeah.
guess like the CEO got mad. Or something.
So other way, the
Yeah.
the CEO was like, "Yo, let's raise the price," and the president was like, "Do not change the price of the fucking hot dog." Quote.
Really?
Yes. Yes. It was do not change the
Dude,
price.
the backlash, the public outcry for a small raise on their hot dog would be just catastrophic.
His reason was actually
Sorry.
I thought it was even cooler. It was his reason. Yeah, bless you, OU.
It's probably gonna come again. So.
It's all good.
We're live.
So the reason that the president was not going to budge was, I thought it was so smart. And he's like, look, people come to get the 150 hot dog and drink, right? That's a thing they come for. So it's like, do we really want to make 13 cents profit per hot dog, or do we want the mass amounts of foot traffic that the hot dog brings? It's like, dude,
It's a great point.
it's a great point.
Yeah, how do you argue against that?
It's a great point. It's just, I think that's one of those things that's not being reactionary, right?
Mhm.
Because like a reactionary response would be, oh, we're losing money on the hot dog. Oh, we sold 200 million hot dogs and we lost, 1 cent per, like, dude, we gotta cut,
Yeah.
That's a reactionary response.
Yeah.
But the president's response of, hold up, like, how many people do you think come here for that and end up walking in and seeing the deal on the plasma and being like, why not?
Yeah.
You know
Well,
what I mean?
he's coming at it with more of a framework around customer acquisition, customer retention, dollars per customer, blah, 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 which is helping him make those decisions, which is cool. It's cool to see. I think what's their membership cost? It's like $60 a month. And they have how many subscribers?
Oh, that's like a year.
Sorry,
It's
a year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a year.
I heard like a big chunk of their revenue actually just comes from their memberships, which is pretty crazy. And I don't know if you guys knew this too, but Costco also Now, it's a pretty aggressive tactic, and it's like I don't even blame them, but and I might butcher this a little bit, but essentially, if you're a CPG brand and let's say you're offering a product in a 1-pack and a 2-pack, right? Whatever, 2 liters, 2-pack, great. If you were to get invited into Costco and do business with Costco, Costco makes you create an exclusive version of your product pack just for Costco. So that's why you get some of the biggest bulk bundles in Costco, and they're exclusive to Costco. You can't sell them on Amazon. You can't sell them at Walmart, Sam's Club, blah, blah, blah. And so I think that's a huge, unique, I don't know where I was really going with that, but it's kind of a unique proposition that they think of it kind of at every single step of the way. They understand sort of their margin and their value proposition, which is really cool.
And it's like, it's staying true to like who you are, right? That same thing we just talked about, having that framework. It's like, no. If you're going to sell in Costco, you got to sell by Costco's rules.
Right.
We don't sell one thing. We sell 50 of them in one package.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, if you're not making that for us, then you're not selling.
Right. And Costco doesn't have an issue getting products into their stores.
Yeah.
Guaranteed.
Their foot traffic is already like...
It's through the roof.
Well, I mean, just think about the millions of brands that want to get in. You know what I mean? They don't.
Yeah,
if you're not going to comply, it's just like...
Their foot traffic is why.
Yeah.
And a lot of their Kirkland branded products are just like white labeled, popular white products that are white labeled.
Yeah.
Like I heard they got that alcohol seltzer water, basically, White Claws. And I think Kirkland is the Kirkland White Claw is White Claw, just with Kirkland branding.
Yeah, probably
So,
tastes almost the same. It's probably like 7 cents a can, too.
I don't know if this is true, but dude, Costco has the best margins. That's so sick.
Yeah.
But I don't know if this is true, but I've heard that the Kirkland vodka is actually Grey Goose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've heard that, too.
Yeah.
Can't confirm nor deny. I don't really like vodka, but...
Yeah, I mean, neither. Vodka's terrible.
Great strategic
Vodka's great when you're like
partnerships.
19. I mean, 21.
Svedka.
Dude, Svedka. Svedka is the international, I'm a 19-year-old drunk white girl drink. That is Svedka. When I see Svedka, I think of some girl like 20 years old, fresh at a college party, puking in a plant.
It's the best, man. I mean...
You like it?
It's cheap for them, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, as a kid.
Yeah.
You drink whatever you can get your hands on,
Yeah.
for sure.
It's so funny. Like when you're a kid, like you think, like when you're a kid, you're like, coffee. That's what adults drink. Coffee is the adult beverage. Then you get older and you're like, oh no, the real adult beverage is alcohol. And then you become an adult and you realize the true adult beverage, water.
Yeah.
It was water
Yeah,
the
it's
whole
The only thing
time.
that gets you through the day.
Water the whole time.
I know, and I felt like it was way more fun drinking when you weren't allowed to drink underage.
That's not a question.
It was so much more fun.
It was probably more fun drinking during Prohibition when it was illegal.
Right.
Because you had like cool, like...
We shouldn't be doing this
yeah,
kind of
and,
vibe.
and you have like speakeasies and
Yeah.
like...
Yeah.
And now speakeasies kind of annoy me. It's like, what do you mean you have a speakeasy? It's legal to drink.
Yeah.
Like the FOMO in anything.
And the
You know what I
novelty
mean?
has been just overplayed. Like, they're everywhere. They're not really hard to find now. You can just a Google search in any city. You
Yeah.
can probably find a few.
They're just not real.
No.
They're like not real.
Yeah.
It's funny how Prohibition never ends up really working.
Never.
And that's my dog. Speaking of FOMO, my golden retriever has the worst FOMO of any creature I've ever
I
seen.
love
in
how
my
he's
life.
featured on every episode. He makes like a quick appearance.
He makes a quick appearance. Lots of times, if you look, you can see him through that window, just like pathetically pushing his face in, like "Let me in."
Yeah.
Like the Eric Andre meme.
But there was another point with Costco that I wanted to bring up. I totally forgot. But yeah, it's a cool model, man. It's they kill it. They kill it in that retail space for sure.
Well, let's go back to Prohibition real quick, because
Okay.
I think there's plenty of stuff there, right? And I think that it's an interesting conversation. See, Z agrees. So like, I believe it was the 21st Amendment that prohibited alcohol. I think it was,
Was it the 20th?
or maybe it was the 20th.
I don't want to mix it up with the women's right to vote one. I feel like that's disrespect.
The women's right to vote one.
How else am I supposed to say that?
Just don't say it.
Okay, so it was
I am who I am.
It was the 18th Amendment, which prohibited alcohol, and the 21st Amendment repealed the 18th Amendment.
Right. So there's 2 amendments in our Constitution about whether or not we should drink.
One says you can't drink, and then The 21st was like, we were kidding.
Yeah, JK.
JK. But that JK created the mafia, right?
Yeah.
Literally. So it's like, and even, was it Hoover that was president during the Prohibition? History people are, what history people? There's like 5 people that listen to this, but if, hold on, let me see.
History's awesome.
It is awesome.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of those like World War II shows.
It was Wilson. Yeah, it was Woodrow Wilson. And so Woodrow Wilson is presides over Prohibition, and then while Prohibition is effect, he has a cabinet full of liquor in the White House.
Are you kidding me?
No, it's real. And so alcohol becomes illegal. The federal government can no longer tax it. Nobody stops drinking, and bootleggers literally become billionaires.
Mm-hmm.
Use that money to establish organized crime, which was a severe problem all the way up until the Rudy Giuliani era that uprooted it.
Mm-hmm. The 80s? Was that when he became mayor of New York?
Yeah, the 80s was with like the broken window policies and those types.
I'm not familiar.
Broken window policies are like if you want to stop big crime, you stop small crime. Yeah,
that doesn't make sense to me, and so I'm not a professional.
Something as small as a broken window is you can like stop and investigate, I guess.
Yeah,
and inquire why.
Yeah.
It's a breadcrumb essentially to a bigger crime.
Exactly. So they can just go into all kinds of buildings because of like random things that may seem out of place.
So it didn't like defy anybody's Fourth Amendment rights that if you saw like a broken window, police could just kick down the door. I could see that coming, but that wasn't really what happened. But it was people basically during that time that created laws to, like, New York is a very dangerous place in the 80s, like the subway, that's what was the nickname they had? Fear City.
Fear City.
Fear City, yeah. And New York, like it was the subways were super dangerous, and if you look at pictures of those times, it was like all the subway cars are covered in graffiti, right? But if you go now, it's not like that. And that's an example of a law that they passed, which brought really, really harsh penalties for spray painting a train, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that worked. So then why didn't Prohibition work? And
it's a great question.
It's a question of supply and demand. Supply will always meet demand. Always. To the point where when we made drinking illegal, bootleggers became billionaires overnight because the demand was always there. 20% of the United States population engages in illegal drugs. Because of that, the cartels are some of the most valuable organizations in the world. And it's evidence of supply always meeting demand.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess where I'm going with this is we saw how stupid Prohibition was in the 20s. But now we're fighting the war on drugs, head in the sand, acting like that never happened. And I don't get it.
Mm-hmm.
It does not make sense.
It's just hard to, I mean, in my opinion, and with the way I understand our culture, is like it would be very hard to imagine it just suddenly being legal. A drug like methamphetamine or heroin or cocaine or anything like that, and just it being okay, sort of like how weed is now, where you can, obviously it has its restrictions. There's a lot of people that are advising against doing weed still, but it's easy to access. So it's like it would be very weird for the culture to be okay with doing, like, having just cocaine laying around or whatever. I just can't imagine that. And then the negative effects on someone, I feel like is much greater than what the things that are legal.
So do you think that if it became legal, use would go up?
Yes. I think use would go up.
So
it would definitely not go down.
So is the reason you don't smoke meth because it's illegal?
No, but
I don't think the reason anybody doesn't smoke meth is because it's illegal.
Yeah, no, it's not. I
think it's because it makes your teeth fall out. Yeah. It makes you not sleep. It makes you break into cars and steal things too.
I feel like if the government can't make money from it, then they're against it.
Yeah.
Like there's no infrastructure set up for them to make money from it. Then they make money on the opposite end by incorporating on the illegals. Like obviously they saw the boom from prohibition and what it did. Like it definitely, that money went somewhere, and I'm sure it supported the economy in some way. So like the war on drugs,
it supported the black market economy, right?
Yeah, but
Criminals got better at paying off police.
Who's criminal? Yeah, exactly. Police and what other government entities did they pay off to do things and put money
for
elsewhere?
sure.
Yeah.
Like that's no question,
Yeah.
right?
So
And
I feel like the war on drugs is probably similar in the money's being fed back into the overall ecosystem and the structure of America and how it was built. So there's like ties, like real strong ties to why this system still exists and why they're still fighting.
Okay, so playing devil's advocate to that,
Mhm.
wouldn't so like sin taxes, right?
Mhm.
Sin taxes give the United States government a separate tax bracket to tax the sins like alcohol, cigarettes.
Mhm.
That's why like cigarette taxes are like insane, right?
Mhm.
So if we have that precedent, doesn't that give them the infrastructure to make buku bucks off taxing these things?
For sure, but like going through the process of taxing it, everything that comes with building a system around taxing that is super expensive. And it's a lot easier for them to make money sight unseen behind the scenes without the people knowing like, oh, the government's making money off of drugs, where they were just completely against all drugs. So I think like it would cause a lot of rift within society. And that's
definitely
also,
agree with that.
Yeah. So that's like backlash they don't want.
I think a lot of it is like no politician wants to commit political suicide.
Yeah, of course.
That
So
too.
it'd be like,
Sacrificial.
but it's funny because like you just have to like, first of all, is alcohol not like a super dangerous, deadly drug?
Absolutely.
Like, most definitely.
But think about how much money, like the health system makes money off of people drinking. There's just buku money made off of that because everything, the systems were built off those things existing.
I think one another interesting way to look at the whole like debate on alcohol and drugs is like the cost to society beyond just like the individual and like the benefits of taxing it or whatever, but the cost to like that person not being able to work or be productive or not be a good
fact
parent.
check that. Look how much money the United States loses every year due to hangovers. I bet it's in the billions.
Damn.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's why that product.
Oh yeah. Shout out Shiloh. I can honestly say that quitting drinking was one of the best decisions I've ever made in my entire life.
Dude, I hit that Siri button at the top of my laptop. And
Okay,
now I
let's
can-
take a quick
Guess.
detour on this because I hate that button.
Dude, it's the worst.
I've
Can
literally
we get rid of it?
You can remove it.
I disabled
How
Siri.
do you do that?
Yeah.
You can't remove it.
Yeah,
you can
just
disable
use
Siri.
That's
Oh my
removing
God.
that
But you
bad
can
boy.
edit the bar.
Yeah, you can edit the bar and it's not going to be there. Because trust, I hit that shit all the time.
Siri is the worst product Apple has ever
Yeah.
made.
Agreed.
Yeah.
The worst.
Agreed.
What was
'Cause
the
you
selling
can-
point
yeah.
at one?
It was, and then people
Or
used
every
it.
other company actually developed it. That tech.
Yeah, Siri.
Apple's the only one that didn't really develop shit.
Yeah, Siri is
They
like,
never
very
do, though.
passionate about
They
it.
like piggyback off of everything else and then
Yeah.
just refine it really well.
dude. Have you
They
seen?
failed.
Have you guys seen the iPhone 12?
It's beautiful.
It's beautiful, but
It's the same design as the 5.
it's the exact same thing as it's crazy.
It's crazy. I was thinking that actually when I was walking in here. I was like, it's these new phones that are beautiful, but they're just copying the designs that worked and just putting in more new tech inside of them.
And there's not even that much new tech in there.
No.
It's very similar. And my favorite thing is this one doesn't come with a charging outlet, and it doesn't come with headphones.
So those are accessories you have to
It's
buy.
those
third
upsells,
party?
baby.
You have to buy them separately. But here's where it gets funny. A spokesperson for Apple came out, and they're like, we're doing this because there's billions of chargers out in the world, and we want to decrease
I
our
love it.
carbon
I
footprint.
love it. I
They even
Gross.
cited how much
I love
carbon they're
That's
going
crazy.
to prevent from being released
I
into the
love-
atmosphere.
Yo, watch when they start making cars. They're
Dude,
like,
how
we're not
much
going to
money-
sell the
dude,
wheels because
Dude, that's genius.
or the doors. Like, what the?
Yeah, like a car that comes with like one door. You have to buy the other three.
Dude, the phone costs the same. Cost of goods,
Phone
cost
costs
of
more.
manufacturing. Oh wow, and it goes down. Dude, they save so much money, and the PR spin on that is fucking nuts.
I don't think that PR play is going to take.
No, dude,
There's
well,
no way people
are
buy
definitely
that.
gonna
No.
love it. They're gonna the Apple nuts that care about that are gonna eat it up and just go buy it. It's more reason for
Yeah, the
people to like.
coastal elites of California will love it,
Yeah.
but like
It's more reason for them to justify getting that phone. It's just like another. It's just all about positioning, marketing.
But what about the college kid that's like broke and that wants a new phone, but
They're gonna want it because it's a new iPhone. Period.
But I
then
think
they have to buy another $50 charger? That's kind of That's really screwing over your customers, in my opinion, in some ways.
It's like, it's one
Raise
thing.
your hand if you have AirPods in this room. Okay, guys. Thank you.
That's three.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Wait, what does that
Three
prove?
out of
3 or
five.
5.
What does that
But that
prove?
means you went out and willingly bought accessories that were already out, readily available, way cheaper. How much did you pay
But
for those AirPods?
but wireless Bluetooth headphones are different
Meanwhile,
than a charger.
my man, AirPod Pro 1, and you got hold on, the regular AirPods, and then when the Pros came out, he couldn't be a broke boy. So yeah, get the Pros.
I've gotten 2 pairs of pros.
You have 2 pairs of Pros?
Yeah.
One for the office, one for home?
I lost a pair.
He lost a pair and then he found it and then gave them to me.
Oh, was that with the
So I
one you
guess
lost in LA?
I win in this situation.
I found, well,
I
those are
love
coming
it.
back to me.
I
but
love it, but yeah, dude, it's more reason for people to go out and spend money for.
But here's
Apple
my
because they're
counter
fanboys.
argument against that. Headphones is a very practical accessory, and that makes sense. But a charger is something that's necessary for
It
the
comes-
device that you
it
bought to work.
Comes with the cable because it's a lightning.
It comes with the
yeah,
cable.
It's the new
But here's the
lightning,
thing. But here's the thing. But
it doesn't have
it,
the little brick that plugs into the wall.
no brick.
That's it.
But Apple's argument is there's billions of those bricks out there, which is true.
that you
but
have to buy.
but they're not USB-C. They're all the old
Great,
ones.
yeah,
So
great,
all
great,
these
great, great.
people have all these bricks that their
Well,
new cords
USB.
can't
think-
plug into.
I think, no, it's only USB-C on one end. It's still like USB-A on the other.
No,
I think. Is it full?
it's full.
Wow, dang.
So
That's
it can
tragic.
plug directly into the new
Tragic,
MacBook.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is cool if you bought the $2,000 computer, but that's a really expensive
Dude, as a
charger.
think of all the upsells though, dude. Like as a company, from
It's genius as a
Yeah.
company.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
dude. It's greedy and it's genius from a company side,
just
but
sucking it dry at this point.
yeah, but just like how many times can you shit on your customer before they're like, hey,
Oh, they're there with their mouth open, ready. Like
Yeah.
they're taking it all. Trust me.
big facts. It's too real. It's amazing. Like that, the loyalty that brand has is just
Yeah, it's crazy.
insane.
Dude, FOMO for real. If you don't have one, even I was talking to a shout out Austin earlier. He kept like, "Dude, does everybody have Max around here? Or like Max better to work with?" And he was asking so many questions.
1,000%.
Like, dude, like, I mean, as creatives, yes, I much rather work on their platform. But it was just like, it was funny watching him just like, dude, what's so cool about Max? And like, he's probably gonna go out and buy one now.
Dude, that dude, Austin's smart. Like,
Oh,
shout
for
out
sure.
Austin.
Yeah, smart man.
That dude's really cool. Yeah, it's funny how the FOMO is so real.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not gonna lie. Like,
Yeah, they sold $6 billion worth of AirPods last year.
Damn.
That's bigger than a lot
Oh
of
my
corporations.
God.
And they
One
gave-
product.
Gave everybody. How long have they been giving everybody like headphones with their phones for? Like
Forever.
years.
forever.
So
Yeah.
you guys all got pairs, but went out and bought AirPods anyway. Right?
They don't have a wire.
Oh,
Yeah,
see?
and they're
wireless.
slick, man.
They are slick.
They
and
work really well.
they're nice.
Whatever, you.
Oh, you stop coming at me with all your logic and good points.
Can I just say something? Jordan left his AirPods in LA. So he's using the headphones with the cord. And we were driving home yesterday and he puts them on and, you know, he's got his little wires and he's plugging them in. And I look over and I'm like, you little broke boy.
Yeah. I get roasted in my own household for not having the latest Appleware.
Dude, it's so cumbersome. I always when I do use them, it's very rare. You're just kind of like, how did we live like this? This is like
feel
my
like a
caveman
peasant.
life. Yeah.
Yeah. It's crazy. So let's go back. How much money does the United States lose every year from being hungover?
So what I found was every single year, the total cost of lost productivity accounted for $179 billion in the United States.
Whoa.
Jeez, dude.
Alcohol-related
Holy
costs.
cow.
That's a
Dude.
big business right there.
Dude.
Like,
Just there's money made everywhere, from top to bottom on that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
That's a lot of money lost.
I'm just saying, like,
Jeez.
if you want to destroy your life, just go to 7-Eleven, pick up a 12-pack, rinse and repeat as soon as you finish it. You don't need meth. You don't need heroin.
Yeah, just drink.
Just drink. And so people that are looking, you know, I know it sounds crazy, but I don't think that a recategorization of the current iteration of prohibition would make drug use spike. I think Portugal is a great example of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
They decriminalized a lot of these things.
I don't think it would spike. That's not what I'm saying.
Drug use went down.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wait, how does that work?
Check it out. Look at
What's the logic on that, though? Why would drug use go down just because it's legal?
I know this sounds ridiculous, but didn't you just say drinking was more fun when it wasn't legal?
That's an interesting trend.
Is that what they're scared of? Dude, I really want to, on the flip side of that. So if it costs us billions of dollars, $100+ billion, almost $200 billion, and lost like revenue in business, like what are they making on the other end to make this like justifiable?
The alcohol industry?
Yeah, like just
Oh, dude.
yeah, I know from like from not just the alcohol, but the health effects that come from people drinking, people dying in accidents, like population control, all kinds of shit, dude.
Yeah. So are you asking, is it revenue positive for the state?
Oh, of course it is. I just want to know, like,
I don't know
though.
I don't know
because of
though.
the loss
Yeah.
of productivity.
The loss of
because you
product-
lose those
so-
people from working and paying taxes.
From paying taxes, you also lose the earnings, everything like that. On top of that, you have increased healthcare costs. You have increased accidents, which means you have to have more people pick up the accidents, which is increased infrastructure cost. You have to fix more roads. And so on the surface, it might seem like it's a no-brainer, and maybe it is, but
Maybe like the car accidents make people buy more cars or something.
yeah, dude, it basically makes the world go around. Somehow.
man, you just going with the fatalistic economics
I don't know,
approach.
dude. I don't know, dude. It makes the world go around somehow. Like it
Yeah.
exists for a reason.
I mean, humans just can't give up booze.
Yeah.
We're stuck on it, and it's like
Well, it's marketed everywhere, man.
everywhere.
It's on
Everywhere.
every commercial you watch.
Everywhere.
Football on
Universally too.
Sundays.
Dude.
It's so prevalent that when I quit drinking, I left all the beer in my fridge because I was like, what's the difference? It's going to be at every gas station. It's going to be. I wanted to quit drinking not because it wasn't available, but because I decided it wasn't for me anymore.
So it's the data around like how big the industry is a little confusing. I'm not finding very clear answers really quickly, but in the U.S. alone, the alcohol beverage industry is responsible for sustaining more than 4 million jobs and generating almost $70 billion in annual tax revenue. So that kind of mitigates that loss. And I mean, was that a fair calculation?
Wait, it was $70 billion in tax revenue?
Tax revenue generated from the sales of alcohol.
I thought you said there was $179 billion in
Alcohol
loss.
related losses. So that could be things like healthcare. That could be things like not working, losing jobs, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, so
Because the number for pure, because that was alcohol related, I can go back.
Yeah, there's a lot of smart people out there, and I'm pretty sure that they crunch these numbers somewhere. It's in like some little dungeon.
yeah, but there's
The
also,
okay, so the dollar amount for the number of lost productivity for hungover workers who have either showed up for work barely able to function or who were unable to show up at all cost nearly $90 billion. In total, all forms of lost productivity accounted for about $179 billion of alcohol-related costs.
so that's $100 billion negative. $100 billion in the negative
Yeah.
per year.
Yeah.
Yeah, craziness.
The hilarious thing is that that stat about how many employees it sustains was on the Four Loko website. I just realized. A little biased.
Like
but-
Four Loko is trying to pretend they've been good for anyone.
Yeah, they got a great graphic. It's
Dude, the original Four Loko is what I imagine drinking diesel would be like.
yeah,
Like, do you remember that thing? The original,
disgusting.
dude, disgusting. And on two of them, you would be blacked out, but with enough energy to run a mile.
Young people love that shit, though.
It's a dangerous combo.
Yeah.
Dangerous combo.
Did they reduce the caffeine? Is that the deal?
I think that's
They
what it
eventually
was.
did,
Yeah,
yeah.
They toned it down. They had to. Too many kids going wild, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Then
Now
you
everyone's
have,
drinking.
When people drink, they usually smoke, so that also, you know,
That's
what I mean?
true.
Or do other drugs or whatever.
That's true.
So-
I
Like Four Loko and Spice videos. I saw a few of those on YouTube back in my day.
so Four Loko. Oh, spice,
Whoa.
synthetic
Yeah.
weed.
Yeah.
So they would just
Oh
get drunk
my
on Four Locos
gosh.
and then smoke spice.
And they'd have crazy wild out sessions on YouTube, and they just put it. You know, this is like 12, 13-year-old me on YouTube just looking up random shit. So.
I bet you those
Dude.
videos are still there.
Yeah, for sure, dude.
Dude, our generation never had a chance.
For real.
Dude, nicotine tastes like cookies and cream. Four Loko is like, it looks,
Soda.
yeah, it's like soda,
True.
but it's like the alcoholic version of a speedball. It's like got booze and caffeine, takes you up and down simultaneously.
I mean, but this generation has the internet, which is like, so we had like booze and shit, and this generation has the internet.
Yeah, that's
So,
way worse.
And that's actually a fact. Drinking is going down in
Mhm.
kids.
Yeah.
They're drinking
Mm.
less.
But look
Why
at
is
the
that?
mental
'Cause they got
issues
the
they
internet,
probably
baby.
have because of because of the internet. I would rather do the drinking thing, have that in my childhood youth.
I mean, I think there's a certain rite of passage that comes from like, taking a Coke can and denting it and poking it with a tack and like smoking out of it when you're a kid. And, I think there's like a rite of passage of like going through all those like sketchy things growing up. Yeah. And then as you get older, you look at life and you're like, dude, I'm not doing that.
Yeah, that's weird.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's weirder when you meet the adults that are still doing those types of things.
For sure.
Kind of like, have you caught on to like what's going on? Like that, no, that's not cool anymore, man.
So check out that article that I sent you. It's from Time, and it talks about Portugal's, like, what's the headline say?
The headline is, "Want to win a war on drugs? Portugal might have the answer." It's a pretty lengthy article. I couldn't.
We don't need to go through it all, but the TLDR is the answer that Time's talking about is decriminalization.
That's interesting too. They're talking about things like HIV infection rates have dropped, and all of the other things that we probably because
less
of
needle
the needles.
exchange.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a lot of like other positive consequences, I guess, that we don't really think about when considering whether to legalize it or not.
And I think those types of decriminalization processes are how you start to stop looking at drugs as a criminal problem and start looking at them as a mental health problem.
100%. Because the big question is, like, why are these people doing these drugs in the first place?
I think when you meet addicts, I've met a lot of them, you ask them, hey, do you want this? Do you want this life? They'll tell you no. Like, flat. Why would they want it? Their family doesn't respect them. Their friends don't respect them. Society looks down on them. Like, obviously, there's something so wrong in their head or how they feel that forces them to go to these lengths just to feel okay. And it's like, we've tried. The war on drugs, it's not like it failed for lack of effort. We fought that thing. We threw how many billions of dollars at it? Countless, trillions, right? It's ruined our standing with South America. Lots of countries don't like us anymore because of this war on drugs, which we led, we pulled them into, and their gangs simply responded with, hey, this economy is so trash. The only way I can make enough money is to be in the drug game. So I'd rather fight and go down dying before I quit. And now you have the current global economy, which is ravaged by the most vicious drug trade we've ever seen. And it's like, at what point do we say, hey, maybe this doesn't work? Hey, maybe we should reapproach things. But, to kind of tie it back to everything we talked about, that requires a framework and vision.
Which this government does not have. Not even close.
Not even close. I don't think anybody has, like, if you look at Twitter right now and you look at Facebook, it's like the vice presidential debate was a great example of this, right? That was a garbage debate. It was civil. They talked to each other. There were some good points. But overall, both candidates they were stuck in their hole. And what I found funny is Fox News and CNN watched the same debate and came to exact opposite conclusions. And right now, the idea of like what we stand for, what our framework is, what we believe is valuable, that's out the window. It's all, what party do you side with?
Yeah, it's scary, man. It's like, how do we fix that? Because it's like, we don't. I mean, what are the consequences of that? What kind of world does that look like when the government has no framework or vision for our people and for our things like healthcare and mental health and all those things that like we talk about and people talk about in politics? What does that look like when there's no more framework going forward? How do we get out of this hole? It's that big question.
More people should watch Social Dilemma.
Get off social media.
Man. Hey,
stop
Facebook,
fighting.
Government's going to be overthrown by Facebook.
Yeah, 100%.
What's sad is that could happen, right? Like, in a good way, right? Like, the power of social network allows if a class, let's say a class of people wanted to mobilize, it's very easy to do that when you have social media. You can mobilize very quickly. You can start groups. You can grow them.
Yeah, but if they grow to any reasonable size, don't they shut those groups down?
Nah.
No?
Nah. I think Facebook's under scrutiny for not
For-
being more strict against those types of
Facts.
like lots of hate groups.
Now,
Gets gnarly.
now Facebook should censor people that are like, yeah, the Holocaust isn't real. Like,
Mhm.
I don't think you should be able to just say that on Facebook, right? I understand why Facebook is going to limit that type of speech. And all those ridiculous conservatives are, my First Amendment rights. It's like, Facebook's a private company, dog. Like, you don't have the First Amendment there, all
Yeah.
right? But in regards to what, we were talking to OU's point, you could make a massive group and mobilize quickly. The problem is nobody actually stands for anything anymore. They stand for political parties. They stand for groupthink, and they stand for being a part of just this, we're the good guys, you're the bad guys. Like,
Dude, if Malcolm X had Facebook, it would have been over. Like, he was ready to, like, go in.
talk, dude.
Or any, Martin Luther King or anyone that did anything like that back in those days.
Mhm.
Malcolm is one of those people that I've really been drawn to. If you listen to his speeches, dude, the guy is like, he's so charismatic, right? And his message, which I think has been, I don't know, I don't think it's been presented as the way that he presented it. Everyone says that he was pro-violence. No, he was pro, if a oppressor is victimizing me, I have the right to fight back.
Mm-hmm.
He was pro-violence in the same way that Nat Turner was pro-violence. Do you guys know who Nat Turner is?
No.
Nope.
Heard him mention, but I can't it's been a minute.
Nat Turner led a slave rebellion, and they killed their masters.
Fled to the north.
Yeah. And they were that's
Am I thinking of someone else?
Frederick Douglass.
Yes.
Yeah.
Nat Turner killed his plantation masters, and they were killed for it but in that instance, it's very hard to say that what was Nat Turner pro-violence, or was he living in a violent world and used the tools of the oppressors against them? And so I think there's this idea of like right and wrong that both sides think they have. They think they're morally right. They think the other one is morally wrong. Instead of us looking at it like the people versus the, I don't want to say oppressor, because I don't think it is comparable to what was back then.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like the people versus the powers that be. Instead, it's, I'm Republican, I'm Democrat, I'm a part of the power structure, while saying that I'm fighting for a revolution. It's like, you can't have that. You can't be a part of the thing that you're trying to fight.
Yeah, because ultimately they're both the same.
I mean, this is an interesting comment, right? Like, we hear this, and I don't know that they're both the same. I will say they're equally shitty in different ways.
Would you say they're more the same than they are more different? The two parties,
Probably.
in terms of...
Yeah, they both want to remain at power, but like they want to maintain the control in their own way, and they're gonna like maintain that at all costs, regardless of the people. You know?
Do you think we're going to live in a world where that dynamic of those two parties, the two-party system, will
You
do
already
away
see
with it?
Yeah, I will not do away with it. It's gonna adapt. It's gonna have to adapt. Like, people just don't want to see the same shit anymore.
Do you think we'll have a third party be introduced in the next 20 years?
So that's a super interesting thing, and like I talk about this a lot, right? I always call it the purple party, right? It's pro 1A, pro 2A. So we keep the amendments, we keep the Bill of Rights, we keep the Constitution. Pro capitalism, pro universal health care, pro gay rights, pro black, pro small business.
Like a libertarian?
I mean, libertarians are not pro universal health care, right? They're very anti against that. And so, like, all those things that I just proposed, I think a majority of people are like, yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But if you frame that in a new party, people are like, oh, let's hold up. Huh? Well, I don't know.
A two-party system for too long.
Exactly. And the two-party system, the reason why we're here is the same reason why every phone company gets bought by Samsung eventually, right? It's you get brought into the massive thing and it becomes a sheer size thing. So you have to be as big as the other side. And no one wants to fracture off a part of their side because then their guy might lose the election.
Right.
And what I'm saying is you don't have a guy. Your party does not care about you. And I don't understand how far we have to go before people start waking up and realizing that the system that is here is not serving anybody.
No,
Like, it's just
really
not.
No. I feel like this type of conversation is something that has or is happening more and more, though, about like the two-party system, discussing whether or not it's a good system, debating on whether or not this is the future. I think that I feel like I've never heard that before Donald Trump became president. You know what I mean? It was never like a topic conversation, at least. And maybe that's just because I wasn't in those circles or not talking those things. But I feel like it's more common to hear these days.
Yeah, Donald was the status quo disruptor, and it made everybody very, I wouldn't say that everybody uncomfortable. It just disrupted what was normal. So it forced people to pay attention. It caused attention to what was going on. Okay. So more people are just like, all right, well, I don't necessarily feel comfortable in the current environment, so I need to become more informed if I want changes. And I think that's what's going to cause the ultimate change in like 10, 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
So like, that's where our two-party system is going to adapt and have to be more like aligned with the people, or people just aren't going to be with it.
Right.
I think they'll probably use their voting power more locally, not just on the national level.
It's going to be interesting to see sort of like what younger generations, how they vote. You know, the ones that are coming to age.
Like, look at Greta. What's her name? Greta
TikTokers.
Thunberg. I don't know how to pronounce her last name, but Shorty's like,
what happened to her?
She's like a teen.
She's
like
preteen. 15 or 16.
Yeah, like what were you doing at pre? I was not doing that.
No, definitely not.
Playing COD, dude.
Modern Warfare?
Yeah, oh for sure, bro. I'd spend like fucking 12 hours playing that game all day.
Those games
I
were
loved
so
it.
fun.
Well, I mean, if you go on Reddit or Twitter right now, it's like politics are annoyingly prevalent.
Mhm.
They're
Yeah.
everywhere.
Can't hide.
So kids are getting indoctrinated in politics in a much younger age. I was one of those weird kids that was like, reading Machiavelli in like 8th grade, 9th grade. No one told me to. I just like, it's how I was wired. And what's funny is the older I get, the more I'm over it. The more I'm looking at this political machine and being like, you guys are a joke. This is a joke. You know how many times someone tells me that, oh, if X candidate wins this year, we're never going to be the same. And I'm like, really, Karen? Will we never be the same? Because you said this about the past 5 presidents and everything's fine.
Mm-hmm.
And it's on both sides, right? Democrats and Republicans do this. Democrats are like, oh, if Donald Trump wins again, the nation will never recover. I'm like, well, he won last time. Here we are 4 years later. And when, we're still here.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm not saying Donald Trump isn't doing damage. Dude is doing very real damage. Very real damage. I've never seen this country so divided.
Yeah.
And that's directly attributed to him, right?
Mm-hmm.
But this whole rhetoric that the world's going to fall down if the other guy wins,
it's fear-mongering.
It's fear-mongering.
You get people to do what you want. You can sell anybody anything. Like, when people are in a constant state of fear, you can sell them whatever they want, and they'll believe you, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just very easy to get people to move and do what you want. When people are
Mm-hmm.
scared. Why do you think COVID, when you look at, what the country did or the world did in mass, everybody just went into hiding because we're all scared.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it was very easy for them just like, hey, be fearful of this for these
Mhm.
reasons. Of course, there's real data to back why we should be fearful of it, but look at how it was handled here and just
the reaction.
Yeah,
from
exactly.
all
It's
that.
crazy.
And look
It's
at-
crazy.
No, I'm not saying the lockdowns weren't necessary. But look at Sweden, right? There were no lockdowns. And they flattened the curve way more effectively than we did.
Yeah.
Great healthcare and
I
transparency.
always have a
Yeah.
problem comparing America to small European
For
countries.
for
though.
sure.
The scale is just
The scale.
It's different.
Yeah. But
America, we're free.
yeah,
You can't tell me what the fuck to do, boy.
Jeez. Dude, it's that.
You gotta have that though. You do gotta have a little bit of that.
You got to have that, but you have to understand what that means, right?
Right.
If you think that you're defending your freedom by not wearing a mask in Target, you're a moron.
Yeah.
Like, you're just an idiot. And I mean,
I'm free to do what I want, damn it. God damn it.
Don't tread on me.
Dude, I love people that like they identify so hard as an American, and it's like, what does that mean? Like, I want to be free, man. I want to be free. I want to drink Budweiser. Like, so basically, you want to have the ability to ruin your life, have no one tell you anything about it, and more importantly, you don't care whose life you ruin along the way. How is that American?
I think people usually think
Some
of
would argue
freedom as
that's very
something
American.
physical instead of mental. And kind
that
of
again?
like I think people think of freedom as being something physical and not mental, right? And that's why they're like, oh, I just want to be free, like, you know, to do whatever they want on their farm or whatever. But it's more like, you know, you're being, you know, enslaved on a mental level because they're putting fear in you. You don't come out, you know, like you're probably living in some rural place and you're inside.
So more like not being told what to do rather than like.
Yeah, because we can't travel anywhere. At a certain point, we couldn't go anywhere, you know? And
Yeah,
so, like, mentally, we're like...
So I think that stuff was necessary, right? Like, we are in the face of the pandemic. Like, the, you know, COVID is extremely infectious. It's deadly. So I see that. But I definitely 100% think that people need to start understanding that freedom is something that happens internally and is realized by behaviors maybe, but it needs to start inside. And what's funny is these same people that think they're free then spout off all the Republican talking points that they watched on Fox News last night. And it's like, what, you're free to be a puppet of just a different puppet master? You're saying that you like your puppet master more? Like, what a joke.
It's not very free.
When you think about that base, though, a lot of them don't have quality educations, so they can't really, I don't want to call these people like folks dumb or anything, but really it's just like a lack of understanding. They can't really think beyond what you just explained, Manny. They get very enslaved to that mentality and don't know how to break free of it because like their environment is what it is, and like freedom is a very physical thing for them because everything around them is not free. They're slaves to their jobs. They hate like what they've grown up in. So they just feel like this dream they've been sold that America is like the land of opportunity doesn't exist for them. So they're the only thing they can hold on to is their freedom, because that's like all that exists.
That's all they have left, I guess, and so to speak, like not actually, but
their concept of freedom.
Yeah, their concept of freedom is the only thing they can like tangibly hold on to.
And do you think that's a result of, because we all kind of know that like those supporters are sort of in the middle of the country?
Bro, I grew up in the South, man. I can tell you.
Do you think that's? Do you think that's being like
stuck in their minds, and they don't get exposed?
It's a matter of like closed-mindedness, maybe not just exposure to different.
Bro, literally, think of an old ass town built in like the fucking 60s, still looking the same to this day, like not changing.
Just having no understanding of the complexities of the real world or the bigger world.
Go drive through Alabama and you'll find buildings like that. You'll drive through cities and just like, what the fuck is this? It's a time capsule. Yeah. And those people, like, the only stuff they get is like what's around them, their direct resources. And if they've been listening to if they've been conservative all their lives, they're not changing. And nothing else in their day-to-day life changes, so they're not willing to accept new change.
And it's funny, those people would benefit from universal healthcare more than anyone.
Yeah, right, for sure.
But they vote against it. It's like, what?
Right. Yeah. Because it's socialism.
Quote unquote socialism.
It's crazy, dude.
Yeah, that is crazy.
But ultimately, just like lack of education, and it's like keeping America dumb for a reason. Like, there's a reason why our education isn't put first, and our teachers aren't like the highest paid.
And why high education is so expensive, because it creates a barrier to entry, I guess.
And then you look at the response by the powers that be, and it's absolute garbage on both sides. The Republicans double down, and they're like, hey, remember, freedom is the right to buy the biggest big gulp you have and drink it at 10 a.m. Remember, that's freedom. Don't let anyone take that from you. And then Democrats, the liberals on the flip side are like, those people are idiot scumbags who I hate. It's like, oh yeah, that's going to win them over. Yeah, that's really good. You know what I mean?
Not how you solve problems.
And it's just a joke, but it just shows you that the motives are not there. The only thing that the Republicans and Democrats are mostly interested in is keeping their power.
Yeah, maintaining it. That's why they've been on, Senate's, McConnell's been there 34 years at the Senate seat. Like, and did you see his sinister laugh the other night? I thought it was personally hilarious, but he just like a little turtle laughing.
There was a debate tonight? Or
No.
No, I think he got called out on like, what do you think about the infection rate of your state or something like that
So
you
my-
shouldn't laugh at like he did. And I don't know, you can probably explain it better.
No, I haven't,
Yeah.
I haven't seen that.
No,
but
it was hilarious, dude.
Damn.
yeah, Mitch McConnell, like when you
Yikes.
look at him, like Emperor Palpatine in Star Wars. Mitch McConnell looks like the junior varsity version of that.
Who's his Darth Vader?
But yeah, in the Reddit comments on that post, people were just saying like they feed off the power. The reason why he was laughing is not because like he didn't have any like sympathy for people. It's more so he was getting off to how much power he had over like powerless people. And that's what a lot of those dudes in that, like, because they know like physically, yeah, you may be able to do something to them, but like, could you actually, nothing. They're untouchable in the sense of like all things untouchables are untouchable because they are the powers that be.
Career politician.
Exactly. When you've been on the board for 30 years, you've been the same face. Everybody else's faces are changing, and you're just here calling shots. So that's
Yeah, you have Mitch McConnell and Joe Biden who are both like accusing each other of like, you've been in government 40 years. What'd you do? It's like, which one of you's talking? You guys, it's like that Spider-Man meme, like where they, you know what
exactly.
I mean? Yeah, like, that's exactly it. And what's funny is like Donald Trump's point to the black community when he's like, what do you got to lose?
Yeah.
Like, vote for me. What do you got to lose? Like, one, I don't think that was extremely appealing. But on the flip side, he's got a point. Like, Democrats have systematically made the black community more impoverished, more isolated, and have less ability to the cultural and economic mainstream. But the out of Joe Biden's mouth, if you don't vote for me, you ain't black.
Brutal.
What? That's insane.
What was that one you showed me the other day when he was saying like Latino kids were not as smart as maybe what was it?
Honestly, they're both like just being king troll. When you think about it, Trump would say like crazy outlandish things when he was running just for people topic of mind. He was always being talked about. So Biden's just out here saying wild shit. Like the video you played me earlier when he said he was like running for the Senate. Like, and now that it's just like the only YouTube clip, and I don't know, it's just like, or it's a short YouTube clip.
Yeah. And it's like, I wonder if there's like more context to that.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
so.
Like maybe that.
But
No, he said poor kids are not as smart as white.
No,
Yeah,
he said poor kids are just as smart as white kids.
Okay.
And then he's like, poor kids are just as smart as white kids. And Asian kids and Filipino kids, and just starts like listing off random types of kids. Like,
just like you mentioned with Costco, and they know how long, the value behind the duration of somebody spending time in their store. I would say politicians can probably break it down the same. Like, how much attention are you getting, and that kind of. I feel like that's part of the framework Donald used to win. It's just always being top of mind, always being the topic, always being the one being talked about, whether it's good or bad.
Yeah, I heard he used like tweet like data when he was thinking about running for president to basically figure out what he should be running on and the things that he should be focusing on. So he would tweet some outrageous shit about whatever, the economy, healthcare, whatever, Obama, blah, blah, blah. And then he would just basically, him and his team would gauge the engagement. And then from there, they would kind of design what they would go after because they knew what people wanted to hear more about.
Crowdsourced
Crowdsourced
politicians.
I've always wondered how much data, or like what kind of data those campaign teams have on the demo.
Dude,
do you guys know?
That's a new
I know
offer
what
right
you're
there,
thinking.
bro.
Yeah.
Right? Oh my
I
goodness.
knew that was coming.
Oh my goodness, dude. You know how much? All right. Let me not go there.
We'll talk about it tomorrow at the meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's interesting to see like what you just said about Donald Trump. Like, my first thought was like, Twitter is a dumpster fire. You're using data from that platform to craft a national policy agenda. And then I started thinking, what can I compare that to? And I thought about Abe Lincoln, who read like 16 hours a day or whatever, right? Like, he just read books constantly. He was constantly studying. And people in law school refer to him as a nerd, And it's like, we have lost our way.
Yeah.
One guy is reading legal decision after legal decision after legal decision to have a good understanding of how to govern well and how to interpret laws. And the other guy's like, oh man, when I called Rosie O'Donnell a pig, Twitter went nuts.
I know. It's brutal, man.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Right. And the guy
How
that
did
was
we
reading
get here?
16 hours a day ends up dead in a theater, and the one that isn't
Well, yeah.
survives COVID and walks out of the hospital. Like,
And it should show you which one was bringing real change.
right. Yeah.
Anybody, it seems like you can look at a bunch of situations in history and point out like people fighting for the right reasons always get silenced.
Yeah.
You know, when it
Mhm.
goes against the grain of the powers that be or it
Mhm.
infringes on the money they're making.
Yeah. It was
It's just like, I mean, you sell dope on somebody's block that you're not supposed to. They're going
Mhm.
to come handle you. It's the same
Mhm.
way.
But what's crazy is it wasn't the power that did this.
Yeah,
He was the
yeah.
power. He was the president, and he still got shot.
That's
That's
crazy.
resistance.
that point you said about selling dope on somebody else's corner, like and getting your card pulled. That's really interesting because you're comparing like that microcosm to something so big,
Mhm.
which like the political. And I'm wondering, like, is this just human nature?
Yeah,
It's
no,
got to be.
Everybody, I mean, every
Go ahead.
level of, society has the same problems. They're just packaged in a different suit or a different,
Oh, for sure.
We all ride for our gangs.
everybody. Yeah.
And at the end of the day,
Mhm.
I was listening to a song today actually, and this guy broke it down that way. He's spoken from different perspectives of the gang, like whether you're in the police, whether you're a politician, whether you're like a skinhead, KKK member. But it's just like I'm riding for my gang and what I believe in. Everybody
Mhm.
has that sense of like these are my people and this is who I associate with. So I'm gonna like look past all the negative shit because I'm riding for my gang.
Yep.
I was like, dude, this is a genius way to break that down. And I'm like, how these, I guess, powers that be stay the way that they are, because it's all just a cultural mindset thing.
It's the dissolving of the individual, right?
Mhm.
Like
Mhm.
the individuals, and we're told like, oh, you need to not think about the individual, you need to think about the collective. And it's like the collective is made of individuals. Like, what are you talking about?
And I feel like the collective would be stronger if each individual was stronger themselves.
But
in
if
many
you go to a
ways.
different country, they're not going to look at you as an individual. They're going to look at you as an American.
For sure. I'm not
So
saying
it's,
I'm not saying that like
Mhm.
pure individualism is possible, right? Like we would not have any
Of course.
similar attributes to someone. I'm saying if we looked at the world of how can we make the individual's life better as opposed to how can we bail out banks after they just ruin the economy, I think that, and obviously that's a very dramatic example, but that's my individualism versus
Mhm.
you know.
It could have more impact. It'd have ripple effects throughout the group or throughout the. That's kind of what I was saying. Is like I think the group itself will be stronger if the individuals in the group are strong
Right,
themselves. You know what I'm
right.
saying? Yeah, and that group thinking, being on teams, is the same reason why we're left or right or Democrat or Republican. It's the same thing. You're riding with your gang.
Yeah, despite
essentially.
everyone being sick of what's happening.
Yeah, it's
It's like I
Doesn't
had
make sense.
when we were up in LA, I had this conversation with some people, and they were like, the first 20 minutes was like complaining about the status quo, and then the next 5 minutes were why I had to vote for one of the two people running for president, and I'm like, how contradictory is how contradictive is that, right? Like and my point was, dude, if nobody voted for president, that would send a pretty strong message.
Yeah.
Right? The U.S. government would have to do something. But
They'd make fake vote.
Oh yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
They would just tell the
they'd
people
finesse that.
voted. They would just
Yeah.
lie to us at that point and keep lying.
probably a good point.
at some point, I mean, but in this age, people would catch on. The
Yeah.
voting booth, the
Mhm.
voting booths would be empty. The polls would be extremely low, and there would be evidence. Right? People are sick of the status quo. They're not participating in this crapshoot, but instead, every single time, you gotta vote. Democracy.
I feel like that would be pretty catastrophic, though, if no one voted. Because okay, so I guess the bigger question is, would you rather live in a world where people vote for one or the other, or live in a world where no one votes and let a power vacuum happen? Like, what would happen at that point if there's no distinguished leader?
The risk of a power vacuum is that you have, in a true power vacuum, like one that was left in Syria, right?
Like someone forcibly removed.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
Assad is removed, the regime crumbles. Now you have no one controlling anything, so there's no major security force, right? If no one voted, there would not be that power vacuum. All the security measures would still be in place. So obviously, I'm not saying, like, am I coming out saying, "Hey, kids, don't vote"? That's not what I'm saying. I understand that voting is very important. I think everyone should vote in every single local election that ever happens,
Mhm.
and vote for all of the props that you can vote on. Educate yourself. These things are very important. That said, if there was a mass rejection of the two dog shit candidates that sit before us, the U.S. government would have to take notice.
Mm-hmm.
Now, would they do another runoff? Would they do something to? Yes, I'm sure. But if we continue to blindlessly just take one of the two things that's offered to us, we're never going to see anything happen. How did Andrew Yang get beat down so hard? How did that happen? He had this crazy, insane idea to give every U.S. citizen $1,000. Republicans said that he's a socialist. Donald Trump came through it with a stimulus package, and everyone said it was great. It's like,
yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
makes no sense.
You're getting bailed out by the government.
You need
which
money
is
to play in
socialism.
politics, though. And he didn't have enough money to get his voice out there to the rural parts of America so they can hear these things. For like, I would say that like that's the power shift at Facebook. If you can get enough people behind Andrew Yang and donating to his cause, then and he gets smart people like Trump did on his team, which I think politicians are waking up to that, aka crowdsourced politicians. Holla at me. We can definitely change things for people. The internet's like vast, man.
Do that. We could do that. We
Yeah,
could,
for
like,
sure.
go out.
You control the message, but you need the money. You need the
We
capital.
need that 10%.
And I feel like
I know.
Andy didn't have the capital under
talk
his
about this
backing,
out
and the DNC just gobbled that man up, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Straight
That's how
out.
it goes.
Yeah.
Straight out.
You like the concept you explained earlier. It's just a matter of size. You know,
Yeah.
you're not gonna win if you're not the biggest in the room.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta have the biggest dick, baby.
Yep.
Not to put like masculinity, gender tones on it. Sorry, guys.
We believe in equality for everyone.
Yes, for sure.
So speaking
Big
of
lips.
the gender stuff, did you see Bill Burr's SNL rant?
Yeah, dude.
That
That
went nuts.
that was so glorious.
It's classic Bill Burr, though.
Yeah.
He didn't do anything
Right.
different.
I know, but it was, well, he did one thing different. It was on SNL.
Yeah.
It was on a big platform,
Huge.
huge. And my favorite
On
thing
NBC.
was as soon as I saw that happen, I was like, all right, let me see what hashtag Bill Burr on, and like all these white feminists were like, I'm just so disappointed at the racism and misogyny in Bill Burr. And I'm like, was there racism and misogyny, or are you mad because your bullshit attempt to take woke culture got called out?
Yeah, exactly.
Do you know why Twitter works? Because like your first reaction was to check Twitter hashtags, and I think people are starting to like use Twitter as the crowdsourced opinion on current events, and that's why things spread like wildfire, and it's like the grapevine effect, and rumors spread so quick. Things just like. And Trump uses that platform very well for what it is, which is why they were using the whole engagement thing to figure out what the hell do people care about right now, and just continue to piggyback off that, because that's how you kind of beat these algorithms. That's what they're paying attention to. That's the things they're sharing. And Twitter probably has like the algorithm that puts those like most current trendy events to the top.
Yeah.
The fastest.
Yeah, and the tweets that are getting a ton
Are
of
way
engagement.
faster, too.
And then you can get all the
Yeah.
like the language people are using. Like you can build so much profile around the conversation going on in Twitter threads.
And they make sure that you can only type something that it's short enough to where you can't get a full thought across.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it keeps everything super half-baked,
Yeah.
dumbed down.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly think Twitter is like the worst social media. It is garbage. I don't even have a Twitter account, but you're right.
But you check them hashtags, though.
But it's like when I saw, well, not always, but on this one, it was
popular
like,
trendy things.
no,
It's a layup,
For,
like-
for this one, it was like Bill Burr immediately attacked the outraged white feminist. Where do they all hang out besides like Kill the Patriarchy convention? Twitter, right? And it's funny because
Dude, people let it fly on Twitter.
oh yeah, what cracks me up is that no one talked about a point that Bill made, which I thought was super legit, which is Pride Month is all of June, and Black History Month is in February, the shortest month of the year, and it's so freezing, no one wants to go outside. Like, that's a hell of a point.
Did he make that point?
Yeah, and he was like, put it in July, right after Pride Month. A black queer guy can be celebrating from the 1st of June to the 31st of July.
Jesus. Bill Burr is amazing.
Dude, so funny. But I think that, his point was really like an eloquent way of saying, hey, stop virtue signaling.
Mm-hmm.
And it's amazing how so many people will take these movements that are very legitimate, and like white women are a great example. White women tweeting about white cis men and the dangers of that. It's like Bill Burr says, like, hey, what are you talking about? You were in the jacuzzi with me. Mm-hmm. And in that special, he says, just, hey, sit down next to me and take your talking to, right? Like, now is the time that white people need to be more reflexive and they need to look at the history and what happened and take time to think about what that means and the implications of crushing a population based off the color of their skin.
That's infringement on my freedoms. I don't want to hear that shit, boy.
My favorite thing is, well, slavery was 200 years ago.
Oh, dude. We watched what was some cringe? Oh, dude, I watched something that was so cringy. I don't know. I think that was a phone call that one of the sales guys had the other day, and it was going really, really well. And at the end, this lady just really like identified herself and what she was, and she was just like basically saying, "My ancestors were slave owners, not me, and I have no control over that." She ended the call with that, and after she went through this whole thing, like, basically this woman was trying to build an e-com store to sell these T-shirts around the causes that she believed in. So I'm hearing this in the background, like, oh, okay, that sounds like a great, you got great intentions.
Good way to start.
Like, and she starts to say, like, basically, yeah, dude, it just, through conversation, it started to lead to, like, what I started with. And I realized, like, this lady's a nut job, and she's just out here trying to raise a bunch of shirts to, I guess, further oppress people. Maybe, I don't know. It was interesting. She was just trying to like, all my friends are gonna fucking love this. Like, they all been telling me I should sell these shirts. It's like an All Lives Matter shirt, basically. Oh, so geez. She was out here trying to put all kinds of different phrases on All Lives Matter shirts and get them popping online.
She's like, all my friends are gonna love this. Besides, we can't wear our white hoods in public anymore.
Yeah, no kidding.
It was nuts, dude. And I was rooting for her personally. I was like, oh man, this sounds like an awesome lady. And then I hear her close that out, and I was like, oh wow, that took a left turn.
Yeah, it's insane, and people like that will make the argument that slavery was 200 years ago, and therefore it doesn't matter anymore. And it's like, that is such a stupid opinion. Let's remove slavery. Let's just let's say you're right. Let's say you're right. How do you account for years of banks lending to people based off what skin color they were, approving loans in certain neighborhoods which have less economic activity, charging more interest, things that have strategically pinned a population at the bottom of the economic ladder. It's like those things were, and first of all, Jim Crow was a generation ago, right? So let's not act like,
this is very old.
That racism died hundreds of years ago, right? Jim Crow was in the 50s, my guy. Like, that's... What? Like, that's not that long ago. No. And furthermore, if that was the attitude that could pass that legislation, imagine the informal powers, right? The invisible powers, the banks, the people the real estate agents, it was an entire concerted effort to make a population not have the ability to get back. And those things happened. They're still happening.
Yeah, they're still happening.
Just change forms.
And with that logic, I mean, how stupid is that logic? Like, if that didn't matter because it happened 200 years ago, then nothing matters because it happened 200 years ago. Yeah. Right. That doesn't make any sense. Right. You probably have art in your home that's older than that.
Our Constitution doesn't matter. Like, nothing that this country is founded on matters. And if that 200 years ago doesn't matter.
And then why stop at 200? Why maybe 5 years ago?
Where do you draw the line?
Where do you draw the line?
And why? Like, it's just ridiculous. And I think it's think about like the freedom peoples. Yeah. I love that they'll fly like the American flag and the Confederate flag. I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
What are you doing?
That's flying two national flags.
Yes.
It's just another
that
way
went to war.
That went to war. That went to war.
And you're unclear on which side you're on.
100%. That's like in your front yard having a Biden and Trump flag.
Right.
It's like they're the opposite. And furthermore, the Confederacy was a failed state that tried to secede from the Union, start their own hostile country that had none of the freedoms that you keep ranting and raving about.
Right.
It's delusional.
It's a
Yeah.
read between the lines kind of thing. It's like I stand for what this represents. Like
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
What this represents is like, homie, do you know what it represents? Like, I get that you're flying it, but well, damn, we're at an hour and a half. So I think before we rant on politics anymore, we should probably wrap it up.
Yeah, I think this is a good one.
Yeah, I'm interested to hear it. I hope all 7 of our listeners leave some thoughtful comments.
Please do. We love you.
Yeah,
All right,
appreciate your
guys.
time.
I know that, and maybe I shouldn't even say this after this one, but if you want to learn digital marketing, which this podcast had literally nothing to do with, go to trafficpilot.com. Digital marketing is one of the best ways for anyone to avoid the same boring, tried out ways of redistributing wealth and go make something on your own. No one can stop you from running ads unless they're uncompliant, in which case go to Traffic Pilot. We'll teach you how to make ones that work. That's it for us on 0 Degrees. Check out trafficpilot.com, and we'll see you on the next one.
See you guys.
Peace. Thanks for listening, guys. Make sure to subscribe. We're constantly making new episodes. Check all places where you get your podcast. Apple, Spotify. Are we on SoundCloud?
We can be. YouTube.
Yeah, YouTube, everything. Get out there, check it out. We got more episodes coming, and we've got a few in the bag. So make sure you subscribe, and thanks for listening.